Here we go. We're back for another Monday edition of the Athletic Hockey Show, and it feels good to be back in this seat because, I haven't co-hosted the pod in basically 2 weeks. It's Ian Mendes, Julian McKenzie, with you as always on a Monday. It's Monday, right? Because I don't know what day it is anymore after coming back from Sweden. No idea what day it is, Julian.
When did you get back? I want, you know what? I know we got to get to a whole bunch of different hockey topics today. We'll break down some stuff that at least you were able to see during the Global Series, because I live in a part of the world where blackouts exist. William Nylander is going to come up. American Thanksgiving is going to come up. But can you talk about what that experience was like in Sweden and when you got back? If you're feeling jet lag, let's start with that at least. I have questions.
I am so so. This is me unshaven today. I feel discombobulated. I think I was averaging, and I'm not alone in this, about 2.5 hours of sleep a night in Stockholm.
Oh my God.
Weird. And you know what's really weird? I talked to some of the players about this too. What was really strange is because of the time of year we're doing this trip, the sun was setting at about 3 o'clock, 3 in the afternoon. It's pitch black by 3:45,
oh my
pitch
God.
black. So it kind of plays with you that way. And then there's, the jet lag, the time difference, all of that stuff. So I don't think I slept very well the entire time, but you're also just kind of running on adrenaline because it's such a unique experience, such a cool experience. And the thing I was blown away by, Julian, and I'll have a story on this, I think it'll come out tomorrow, is one of the things I wanted to do is what's the chat? Here I am complaining about, oh man, I'm so tired of jet lag. Can you imagine how hard it would be to be an NHL fan? Say you lived in Stockholm or in, Germany, UK, wherever. The games are starting at 2 a.m. for you on the regular. I don't think we take enough time on this side of the ocean to appreciate how difficult that would be, right? You follow some Premier League soccer, right? Or what?
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah. What's the time difference for you? But that's then you're getting up early in the morning to watch it, right?
Yeah. Well, for my mental health, I limit the amount of Manchester United games I watch because I don't want to start off my day on a terrible. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't like the fact that the Leafs and Manchester United have that comparison, but I understand why.
Dallas Cowboys, Man U, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are all in the same bucket, right? Fair to say? Yeah.
So to the original point here, I think even when I was still living out east in Montreal, there are times where you'd have to wake up at 7:30 if they're the early game of the day, because they're at least 5 hours behind or for what's going on in England. And we'll just add 2 hours essentially to that for people living in Alberta in mountain time. So say Man U's playing the early game of the day, I might have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, which I'm not going to do that. There's times when I wake up at 9:30, 10 o'clock. They've already played. It is what it is.
How do you follow along? How do you watch without any spoilers, or do you know the score?
So I'll especially since I follow a banter club, the memes will tell me what is going on. But seriously, the cool thing about the Premier League, at least, is we at The Athletic, I mean, this is a good opportunity for us to, pat ourselves on the back here.
Yeah.
We do a pretty good job of covering the Premier League. And Carl Anka is one of the primary writers for The Athletic for Manchester United. And I'll follow their tweets. and I'll read their articles after the fact. And that's basically how I keep up. Or at some point, like if something crazy happens, you'll go on social media, someone will post some clip of a game somewhere, probably the team because they're able to do that. But you'll start to see some sites, some people will post clips, like they'll watch it on some feed that's not like Sky Sports, or who has who has rights for Premier League games in the United States now? Is it still, it's not still NBC, is it?
No, that's a great question. I don't
I
know.
don't
Like
remember who does. And in
one
Canada,
of our
we have to
listeners will
watch on,
tell us.
and on Canada, and in Canada here, it's on Fubo TV. There, once upon a time, you
Oh,
could
right.
wake up.
Yeah.
There was a time in Canada you could wake up on a Saturday morning and you could watch Premier League games on Sportsnet. And like Jerry Dobson was, and Craig Forrest would like host those broadcasts. And then the last few years, those rights ended up going to DAZN. And then DAZN doesn't even have, I don't think they have the Premier League anymore. And
No,
now
they
you
don't.
have Fubo TV. DAZN only has Champions League games now. Like
And the
it,
NFL. Yeah,
like,
it's
like yeah. So I know we're kind of going all over the place here, but like I guess the closest thing we have, at least in Canada, in terms of experiencing difficulties watching a sport compared to what could be going on in Sweden with watching NHL games, it's soccer fans who want to watch Premier League games. Like that's, I guess that might be the closest comparable that we have. So that's
yeah.
it's about dedication to a certain degree to follow these games. But even for us, like you just have to wake up super early in the morning. A 2:30 a.m. start for a fan living in Sweden to watch their favorite team, like how? Like you basically have to like watch like NHL clips. And look, we're talking about soccer, which is a global popular sport. Hockey is as niche as it can get among
Yeah.
the poor here in North America. So that's really, I think the measure of difficulty has to be different compared to soccer fans in this part of the world.
Yeah. So one of the fans, and again, this will come out in the story that I'm going to publish. Excuse me, Julian. He told me about a website. I had never heard of this before. I'd
Yeah.
like to know if the listeners have heard of this. I'd like to know if you've heard of this site. Don't tell me the score.com.
I feel like I've heard that URL before.
Okay.
I feel like I've
I
heard
had
of it.
no idea.
I couldn't tell you what it is.
So if you're like, let's say you're a fan of the Colorado Avalanche, but you live in like Berlin. Okay. I'm just randomly picking. And you're like, you go to bed because, the Avalanche are playing at 3:00, 2 in the morning, whatever. You wake up at 7 a.m. You want to kind of either watch the game or get the highlights, but you don't want to see the score. What do? Because if you go to NHL.com and you're like, well, I'll click on the condensed game recap, the score is right there and it's all over.
Yeah,
It's
you
like,
see it.
right. It's at the top, whatever. So what do? So this fan, he told me about this. He told me that go to don'ttellmethescore.com. You click on it, then you click on and they got this for the NBA, the NFL, and NHL. You just click on the game that you want to see, and it gives you the clean, the NHL recap, the 10-minute version,
Yeah.
clean, but there's no score bug anywhere on their site. So you have no idea if
Right. Okay. So
your
like,
team, you
so
know what I
when
mean? Like if you go to NHL.com and you go to click on Colorado versus whatever, Boston highlights,
you'll have already seen the score. Like literally, if you
you'll
go
have
on the
seen the
homepage, like all the scores are at the top.
exactly. So there's spoilers everywhere. You go to don'ttellmethescore.com, no spoilers. No spoilers. So it's pretty cool, right?
Apparently, we can hide the scores on our on the Athletic app. Producer Chris has sent us
Yes,
a note
actually,
saying
yes,
that.
you can, right? I believe you can change you can alter your settings, right? I
Wow,
think you
you
can.
can. You absolutely can. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the Athletic. $1 a month for 12 months.
Look at
Use
you.
the athletic.com/hockey show to do that.
Natural read going in this. But anyway, Sweden was great for me. I got a little bit of chance of time to spend with Mike Andlauer, Senators owner, which was great. A little bit of time with Daniel Alfredson, little like, so some fun stuff like that. I had no time. I had one thing on my I've been fortunate. I've been to Sweden before. So I've been to there's a great Vasa museum with great story of this old ship that sank. I've been able to go to that before. That was great. I had one thing I wanted to do, Julian, and I didn't have the time. I wanted to go to the ABBA museum.
Oh,
I couldn't lure. I didn't even ask Russo And I spent most of my time with Russo and Joe Smith just because our schedules seemed to align more. I never saw Jonas Siegel. Did Jonas Siegel even go to Sweden? I never saw him.
I'm of the impression that he did. He wrote a great story last week on William
I don't know.
Nylander.
I never
In
saw
fact,
him.
actually, the Leaf report, I think today's episode, does not have Jonas Siegel on it, which apparently is like
Really?
the first time in
So
I think in the
maybe
history that they've ever done the show, because he's stuck. He's trying to get home from Sweden. You know how wild it was? They didn't have Jonas on, so Myrtle had to do the show with Chris Johnston. That's how wild it is.
you know what? I can tell you Chris Johnson was there. I had dinner with him one night, which was great.
Oh, that must have been nice.
We chatted how much we love working with you. So that was
You don't have to lie to me.
okay. It was a complete we just complained. You're like, "Can you believe when Julian does?" No. It was great. But I was like, "Man, I don't know. Mike Russo doesn't strike me as an ABBA museum type of guy. Does he? Maybe I should have asked him. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have. I also feel like when you put that out there, you're either going to get, "Oh man, that's awesome, count me in," or you're going to get annihilated by people. Like there's no in between.
Yeah, ABBA's
I
very
don't
much
know.
an acquired taste type of thing. By the way, if I was there, I would have gone with you. Absolutely, I
Yes,
would have gone. Oh
I
my
know.
god. Have
I
you ever
think
watched
you would
Mamma
have.
Mia?
Yeah, I've seen the Broadway show. Yeah,
Okay, I only watched the movie, and I went into it with no expectations, and I came out of
phenomenal.
really impressed.
Yeah,
Phenomenal. So I imagine the Broadway musical must be amazing.
yeah. I wanted to go. I didn't get a chance, so I didn't get a chance to do all the touristy stuff. But real cool side note: on the way home, I wonder how many athletic reporters on a work trip have had a stopover in Reykjavik, Iceland.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah, I stopped over in Iceland.
Oh, that
That
must
was
be
my.
so
I
cool.
wish you know what? I wish I had carved out more time. Um, to to spend in I only had like a couple hours or so. I didn't even get out of the airport. But do you know
Yeah.
this? Here's a life hack for people.
Okay.
If you fly Iceland Air, okay? And
Yeah.
Iceland Air has direct flights from all over North America. Like I think you could even go from Calgary, Julian, to Iceland direct. I know you can go from Seattle, Vancouver. Anyway, if you fly on Iceland Air to Europe with a stopover in Iceland, they will allow you at no extra charge to your ticket to have a layover in Iceland for up to a week. So basically, let's say you're going, Julian, you're going to watch let's say you're going to watch Man U play.
Yeah.
Okay? You're booking a ticket and you're going Calgary to Iceland to Manchester. Well,
Yeah.
when you stop over in Iceland, usually you're like, "Oh, my stopover's for 2 hours." You can make that stopover for 2 days and they'll allow you to just continue on to Manchester with no penalty. It's not like, "Oh,
That's
you got to."
insane.
Yeah. So there you go. Life
They
hack for
really
you
want
to
people
listen.
to visit. Because I it seems like over the last 5-10 years or so, there
Yeah.
has been this upswing of people just going to Iceland just to go. Like their tourism must be raking in dough because just people are just going. There's a friend of ours, a friend of mine, who works at the Athletic, Shelby Blackley, who does a lot of SEO stuff. She legit just came back from Iceland. She's
Yeah.
posting photos all the time. It looked like a great time.
So there you go.
Man, we
Get
are
out there.
plugging
Well,
a lot
I
of
was
stuff in these first 15 minutes, by the way.
I know.
Yeah, you should
This is
subscribe to The Athletic. You should subscribe for our soccer coverage. You should subscribe to the Leaf Report. You should go to Iceland. Is there anything else we didn't
should this
prop
become
up?
like a tourism podcast? Maybe? Like a food
The
and
tourism
tourism
show. Food
podcast?
and tourism.
Okay, let me ask you this question because I threw this out to people on social media, and I'd like to
Yes.
throw this out to listeners, and I'd like to throw this out to you. Because the Leafs and the Wild and the Senators and the Red Wings all went overseas. So I talked to a few people, Julian, about like how much did this cost you as fans to go over? So the Ottawa Senators, for example, they had a ticket package where fans could, and it cost about $4,000, a little bit under, I think, $4,000 per person. But that included your return airfare, tickets to both the games, your hotel, some sightseeing stuff. Excuse me, and you were also gone for about a week. And so there was a Helsinki portion, whatever. So it got me thinking. If you had the money in your budget, but you could only do one, and let's call it $4,000, would you rather take a kick-ass trip to Europe to watch your favorite, if you know your favorite team, it's Detroit, it's Minnesota, it's Ottawa, Toronto, $4,000, kick-ass, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go to Europe to watch your favorite team play 2 games? Or do you take that money and say, you know what, nah, forget it. I'd rather buy season tickets. Give me the 41 games at home. What would you rather do? I threw this out on X. I got over 1,000. How about me calling it X? That's weird. I actually can't believe I called it X.
I'll let it slide.
Let it slide. On Twitter. I put it out on Twitter. I got over 1,000 votes on this already in a couple of hours. It's pretty close. It's 58-42 in favor of season tickets. But more than 40% of people would say, you know what? Give me the Europe trip. What are you taking, Julian? What are you taking?
So my initial thought was season tickets, because the opportunity to go to a game basically whenever, just having season tickets. It also depends on the team too. Like, could you like imagine if you have like either Montreal or Toronto season tickets? Like, the waiting lists for those teams are astronomically long. Like, hell yeah, you take that. But the idea of going to see your favorite team play 2 games out of market, and you're going to take that opportunity to have a once in a lifetime trip somewhere in Europe. We could stick with that continent for this example. Like, the memories with that are, it could be a great time. Like, I don't know. Like, this seems really tough. Like, I think maybe for value, the season tickets, but also like just for priceless memories and enjoyment, especially if it's to a country you've never been to. Like, if you're going with like a partner, or go with like a friend or buddy or whatever, like,
Yeah.
that would be really fun. Like, you go to Sweden, you go to Finland, somewhere, like if they're playing a game in like London or something, and like you get to experience the city, you get to enjoy your time out there. You get to experience the food, you get to experience the culture. Like, I don't know. Like, this is my initial thought was the season tickets, but there's so much that goes into experiencing game day elsewhere. Like, those out of like, even, I mean, it's nowhere near on the same level where the Heritage Classic is like up at like Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton, but that just felt cool just being out in the stadium. So imagine like going to a completely different part of the world to watch your team play, and you get to experience that city and you get to experience that culture. That's a really tough decision for me. At $4,000, I think you'd have to like size that up compared to, the actual value of like, of these trips and flight costs and food and other arrangements. Like, that could be worth it. That could also be very steep. I don't know.
Well,
I'm just saying it's a very tough decision.
It is a tough decision, that's why I threw it out. It's a great question to ask and have fun with. Like, would you rather season tickets or a trip to Europe to watch your favorite team? Like 10 years from now, if you had season tickets, 10 years from now, how many games are you going to remember out of the 41 home games or moments? I don't know, 1, 2? Probably not.
Depends on the games, depends on the team too, depends on the type of season that they have. You might say 1 or 2 you might remember, but like, what if it's this like insane season they have?
Yeah, but
you could also sell those tickets too and make money.
Now we've turned this into I'm just ticket broker blog.
No, but that too. No, but like that's something that people would genuinely think about in that situation, right? Like, they could take those tickets and they know they can't go to every game. Boom, I just made myself like $400 selling these tickets to this random Edmonton Oilers game, as an example.
Man, I don't know. Anyway, so hit us up, theathleticshockeyshow@gmail.com. Let us know if you had the money, and we'll call it an extra $4,000, and you had to spend it either on season tickets for your favorite team, a trip to Europe to watch your favorite team play 2 times. What are you taking? Now, here's what I'd love to know from Minnesota Wild fans, especially the ones that made the trek.
Mm-hmm.
Your team went 0 for 2. Now, granted, they picked up 2 points, but they lost both the games. Still worth it to go overseas and watch your team lose 2 times? Would you, whatever. So the Wild are an intriguing team. And there's been a lot of chatter, a lot of noise around that team Mike Russo and Joe Smith do such a great job covering it. But the whispers about Dean Evason's job security seem to be growing louder to the point where they're not whispers anymore. It's almost like they're loud shouts. Losing 2 games, do you think that I feel like that could be the thing that pushes this thing over the top in Minnesota, or at least it feels like maybe it could be.
I'm surprised to see where they're at in the standings. This is a team that, I mean, it's one thing to see Dallas and Colorado at the top of the Central Division, or Winnipeg as well is there. I did not expect them to see them below St. Louis and Arizona. Those are 2 teams they should be clearing in that division. I don't know what's up with Kirill Kaprizov either. Every time I see Michael Russo tweet about him, it's just not always like he's not having himself a good game for whatever reason.
Julian,
and he's under a point per game.
He didn't, and I'm saying this now. I've only seen him with my own eyes one time, which was Saturday. He didn't look like, remember like 18 months ago, 2 years ago, like he would almost get you off of your chair.
Absolutely.
Like he was so explosive, dynamic, fun, whatever. I'm not seeing that out of him. And my gut always tells me that when somebody's like that, there's an injury involved, right? Like that's what it feels like. Guy doesn't look like the guy I expect to see, but he just looks like a shell of himself right now, which is really disappointing because you want to see, like, I think if we're just basing this on talent, I think he might be a top 10 player in the league on talent. Not
I
seeing
agree.
that so far this year, right?
Like I think Kirill Kaprizov in terms of his skating ability, there was like one game, I think it was at the Wild and the Canadians, where on his own, he was able to just like spin around everybody in the offensive zone for like a solid 30 seconds. Like it's stuff like that gets you out of your seat to watch a player like Kirill Kaprizov and to see him with like 15 points in 17 games. And I get it. There are so many other players who would kill for that stat line. That is not what I come to expect for a player of his caliber. So to see him not there and to see that the team is underwhelming, they have like a minus 16 goal differential, which puts them on par with the team that's last place in that division in Chicago. Like for a team with playoff aspirations like them, they cannot afford to be in that part of the basement. And they have until I think their next game is Friday against Colorado. So if they're going to do it, now around this time would be the time to make that switch. You have all those days to recuperate from your trip. You'll practice in between, I'm sure. It's a home game for them on that Friday.
And they were flying back on Monday from Sweden. You're not going to do anything while you're in the air or whatever, but
maybe Tuesday.
It's a tough one because that fan base is so good. Like I was really shocked. In fact, I talked to a lot of Ottawa people. They were blown away by the number of Minnesota fans who traveled to Stockholm. Like Ottawa was really well represented, but Minnesota was like, wow. It was like when they scored that goal on Saturday, it really popped in that arena. And so, that's a fan base that has never seen its team get to the Stanley Cup final. Only been to the conference final once, and that was 20 years ago. And it's as good a hockey market as you're going to find in terms of just
state of hockey.
Fans. Yeah.
Call it the state of hockey. Like Mike, there's a reason why Michael Russo is like heralded as a god up there. Like they care. They care about the sport.
Yeah.
Like they're into it. And to see their team just continue to be in this weird mediocre space is strange, especially on a team like this where, you think Philip Gustafsson should be that guy after a good year last year, or Kirill Kaprizov not playing at that high level that we were talking about earlier. Like, yeah, if I'm a Wild fan, I'm frustrated.
So the Wild, they lose both their games. They lose the game on Sunday thanks to a Willie Nylander overtime goal. Now, Nylander, you want to talk about a homecoming?
Yeah.
Nylander, the 3-point game against Detroit, including the tying goal and then setting up the winner and then the overtime goal. Like, what a great weekend. He did an autograph signing in downtown Stockholm there. People told me that the lineup went, I think, 3 or 4 city blocks. That's how big the lineup was to try to get a chance to meet Willie Nylander. Pierre LeBrun with a great column today about what does this do to his value? It's a great question. You talk about intriguing UFAs in the summer. nobody's more intriguing than Willie Nylander, partially because of the market he plays in. Let's be honest, it's top of mind all the time. But that dollar figure seems to be going up and up and up, and that trip to Sweden certainly pushed the value up. So, Pierre LeBrun floats out an interesting number too, and is he Pasternak worthy? Which is kind of an 8-year, 11 million per year deal. Like, what do you do now with William Nylander?
I mean, if you sign him to that contract, it's funny. Like in the offseason, there were people debating whether or not he should be a $10 million player.
I know.
And people were wondering, like, oh, is this the line in the sand? Is there a way to sign him under 10 million? If the Leafs sign him to 10 million now, it's a steal at this point, considering his playmaking ability, the things he's able to do all over the ice at both ends, and the tear that he's on right now. Like, the longer this point streak goes, the more expensive the price is going to be. Like, I think a David Pasternak deal for him right now, if you're the Leafs, if you're a Leafs fan, you love that, because the longer this goes on, the more you start thinking in your head, you have to pay this guy 12 million, 13 million. Like, if it starts getting to that point, you're like, oh boy, what are you going to do? And we all know with this team, in terms of the core four that they have and the money being tied up to those big pieces, like, you're a little nervous about shelling out that much for that type of player. But he's also been this dynamite player this year. And if you look back at some of those playoff runs where Mitch Marner isn't playing at his best, or Austin Matthews isn't playing at his best, there's a very good chance that William Nylander is still, after all that, playing at a high enough level. Like, this is a guy that the Leafs need to keep. This is a guy that they need to sign. And I think 11 is more than fair for this player. But it also wouldn't surprise me if they were asking for 12. I think at this point, considering what he's shown, like, why not give him 12, right?
He scored 40 last year. And like you said, been a pretty consistent playoff player. But when would you sign this if you're Nylander? Do you just keep it going a little bit longer?
I mean, the point streak, he's going off to a good start, leading the team in scoring. I don't think you're in any rush, really. Unless they
should sign it on November 30th again at 11:59.
Oh my God.
This feels really familiar for some reason.
Yeah, contract disputes, Yeah. Yeah, let's give everyone in Toronto a heart attack at that time.
Yeah. What a remarkable year. And he's put himself absolutely, and this isn't hyperbole, in the conversation for the Hart Trophy at the kind of,
I agree,
whatever you want to call this, the 20 game mark or the American Thanksgiving mark that we often look at as like
the quarter pole.
No, you know what? That quarter pole comment, and I'm guilty of the same thing. I don't know if have you ever had a horse racing fan yell at you for quarter pole?
No,
because I have. Because I've
really?
said, yeah, because apparently in horse racing, I believe, and I could be wrong on that. Again, somebody could correct me. I remember saying quarter pole at one point, or writing quarter pole, and horse racing fans are like, just so you know, the quarter pole is actually when there's 1 quarter left and there's 3 quarters that have been done. Apparently, maybe somebody.
So we should be saying 3/4 pole.
Yeah, but then that's just overly confusing, because that's not how normal people like us talk. We would say quarter pole. And yeah, I'm pretty sure somebody smarter than me, or who's a horse racing fan, just tell me if that's right. That when you say quarter pole, it's actually the final quarter of the race. Okay. Because I feel like I got yelled at one time for saying quarter pole. Don't you know the quarter pole isn't 20% done? It's 20% to go, or whatever it is. So
I got tweeted at the other week about how when people say, like, for panicking or just worry about stuff, like, that the level of like DEFCON 5.
Oh,
like,
actually,
I learned.
Yeah,
like DEFCON 5 is apparently like the lowest level.
Oh God, chill. It's DEFCON 1 is the problem.
It's DEFCON 1 that's bad. Yeah. Also, yesterday I came across one of those clips from the show The Office, and there's an episode, I forget which episode, but Michael Scott says DEFCON 5, and I looked at that clip and I was like, oh, I feel like an idiot now.
Oh man,
I really got that wrong.
When you end up inadvertently pulling a Michael Scott and thinking that you're in the right, that's How the turntables have.
Literally how the turntables.
Oh my God, it is so good. So
Anyway, I
anyway,
didn't mean to trigger you with
no.
quarter pole.
But I'm throwing that out there because maybe one of our listeners, who is a horse racing fan, can confirm to us that quarter pole doesn't mean what it does. Anyway, but I think Nylander, to get back to the original point,
Yeah.
is absolutely in the race. Now, I don't know where you fall on like if you had to pick one for Vancouver, who ends up being, is it Petey? Is it Hughes? Is it, whatever? But Nylander's in that conversation right now. Jack Hughes is in that conversation. I know he's been a little banged up, but he's in there. And boy, if he ends up somehow being a Hart Trophy finalist and he doesn't have his deal signed, wowza.
There's no way the Leafs have to. If the Leafs let it get to that point, something's wrong.
But you got to remember, there's two sides though, right? Like the Leafs might be desperately trying to sign him, and the Nylander camp might be just sitting back being like, well, let's just see how this plays out, right? Like Toronto can only have so much control over it, right?
I mean, I understand that, but they're literally like yesterday's price is not today's price. And the more that he plays at this high level, like this point streak, what's it, like 16, 17 games now?
However many games they played, I think it's 17.
I know that's not going to last forever, but if he still plays at this Hart Trophy level, and you point back to all of those other seasons and his consistent playoff performance that I've mentioned before, why, I'm telling you, you get it back at 10, 11, that's a steal by comparison. He has proven to you on so many different levels that he is this essential player that you need as a part of your core four. At the same time, if you're the Leafs, you're like, well, we need to fill out other parts of our roster. 17 games. Thank you, producer Chris. It's at 17 games now.
Yeah, 17 games.
What do you do? If you lose William Nylander, it feels like this team, it's kind of funny to say a team that has Austin Matthews, a top 5 player in the NHL, that has Mitch Marner.
He has 14 goals, doesn't he?
He's having a good year.
In 17 games.
It's just that his teammate is the Hart Trophy leader right now. But if you take off William Nylander off this team right now, unless they're getting pieces that are going to fill out their defense in their bottom 6, where do you put the Leafs? William Nylander is a lot to this team right now.
I'll tell you one other guy who I think we should maybe consider for just in this early 20-game mark Hart Trophy, and it's Sid. And it's crazy. But Sidney Crosby has what? I'm just double checking this. Yeah, 22 points in 17 games, 12 goals. And the Penguins have that atrocious start, Julian, and they've sort of kind of righted the ship. This is you sometimes run out of adjectives and superlatives for Crosby. And this is just remarkable. At 36, to be on pace for another, I don't know, it's early, but he might get 100 points again. And it feels like he just wills his team every single night. And man, I'm telling you, he would be on the short list of, big time surprise, or not surprises, but big time candidates for the Hart Trophy. And I see producer Chris chiming in. Don't forget about my small market Rangers.
No, but here's the thing. Producer Chris has a point, because Artemi Panarin.
Yeah, he's got a point in every game, right?
He's on a 15-game point streak.
15-game point streak, yeah.
He's been good too. 26 in 16 games. He has been a good player. The Rangers are playing, it seems like, to the level that people are expecting from them. We can't forget him in all this too. Here's another name I'm going to throw at you that we discussed earlier in the year when we were looking at those player tiers and we had Shayna on. And this is not me throwing shade at Shayna. This is just me talking about the guy that I was propping up. Kyle Connor is tied for the league lead in goals at 14. He's 22 in 17. I know he's a goal scorer and he might not have the same skill set as a William Nylander. But Kyle Connor has been slept on for a while. And if he keeps this going, maybe this is the year everyone wakes up and notices him. This is a really good start for him.
And
I want
the
that
whole
set.
debate was how many goals? That was Carter Verhaeghe, right? That
Carter
Shane had.
Verhaeghe, who's having his season's fine. It's like 13 points in 17 games,
But
but
okay,
like,
is this fair to say? Kyle Connor right now, if I'm not mistaken, Kyle Connor right now has more goals than Carter Verhaeghe has points. Am I right
yes,
on that?
yes, you are absolutely right.
So that is throwing shade at Shayna Goldman.
So be it, Dan.
So be it.
So be it, Dan. I'm
So be
sorry,
it.
my
But Kyle
friend.
Connor, what a
But
great
and look,
what
82 games to be played. 82 games to be played. Carter Verhaeghe could get on a heater, and it could get to a point where we can look at those two as comparable. But Kyle Connor has been consistently underrated as a goal scorer. That is a player, I believe, who has also scored 40 in his NHL career.
Yep.
47, in fact. He's almost scored 50. He had 38 in 2019, 2020 as well. He's almost done it twice.
He's a consistent kind of 15. His shooting percentage is always around 15%, right? When you look at Kyle Connor's career number. So it's not like you said, he's not riding some unsustainable heater that if he regresses, it's to 15%. It's not like he's going to regress to 7% or 6%. Like, he's a legit 15% guy, right?
You know who's actually off to a pretty good start himself, and I did not expect to see this name up here. It's Carter Verhaeghe's teammate, Sam Reinhart.
Hey, Sam Reinhart is having the best season, Julian, that nobody's talking about right now in the NHL. And
Absolutely.
with all the focus on Willie Nylander, Sam Reinhart's a UFA at the end of the season. And he's top 10 in scoring. And I don't think enough people are talking about Sam Reinhart.
No, I agree
Elite
with
season.
that. I mean, yeah, he's on a team that has like all these personalities like Matthew Tkachuk and Sasha Barkov being underrated all the time. Like, he's literally lost in the shuffle there with the season that he's having. I mean, there are a lot of guys in terms of whether you're just looking at the Rocket Richard or the Art Ross or just the overall Hart Trophy that like we're, underrating a lot. I mean, Nikita Kucherov just coming along there, 13 goals. He's just there, just doing his thing. 27 points.
Yeah, Kucherov is like just so quiet with his top 5 in scoring, right?
Yeah, just quiet essentially. And then you have the Canucks guys, obviously, who
are they so tied 1, 2, 3? Those guys?
Yeah, tied at 28. Like, I think that is so cool that all 3 of those players have been as good as they've been, and they're tied at the same point total. Like, it's what like we always see all the time, like a trio of guys doing well and their point totals are all over the place. I don't know if I've ever seen it where at the start of the year, like they're all at the same point tally. That is so cool.
I think Ottawa in the the first year out of the lockout in 0506, they had this line with Danny Heatley, Daniel Alfredson, Jason Spezza.
Yeah, that was insane.
They came out of the gate, Julian, and they were like, all of them had, I think it was very much like this. All of them had 30 points right away. They were 1, 2, 3 in scoring, I think, at one point.
Man. So even then, that's just still really cool to see. And I got to watch a little bit of the Canucks guys last week. I know I was sick, so I had to watch from my couch, but like, they had a power play. We were just whizzing it back and forth.
They just own, like they don't give
They're
up
all over the place
in that power play. It's insane.
The only reason they lost that game against the Flames last week, they was the second night of a back-to-back. They were tired. I know the Flames needed that win, but like, just the pace, the ability that those guys have, like, wow. Like, I'm very much in awe of what the Canucks have. And I know they have a tough schedule. I mean, their schedule coming up. I mean, there's some people who look at the schedule, they're like, hey, maybe it's a little easy, but like, I don't know. I think they might be a playoff team. It would be a pretty bad fall for these guys.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Sustain that.
No, you know what? I think what's a fair assessment of the Canucks? We're not gonna. It's a great start, and statistically, they're hanging with the elite teams. But I don't think anybody is saying they're a Stanley Cup contender. But I do think it's fair to say they're a playoff contender now. And I don't think we thought that about them 6 weeks ago.
I agree.
Or we certainly thought they were a bubble team at best. Right? We didn't know which way they're going to go. They've earned the right for us to say they're a playoff team now. Monday night, Vancouver, San Jose. And that one feels a little bit like, if you're Vancouver, you got to make sure you win that one.
It's a trap game.
what's the DEFCON level there? If you, based on Julian and Michael Scott's DEFCON level, if they lose to San Jose, DEFCON 3, because
It
nobody
might
knows
be
what that is.
DEFCON. It might be DEFCON. I'll tell you this: if the San Jose Sharks win over Vancouver tonight,
Yeah.
Dom Luszczyszyn will be up watching that game, and I guarantee he will have some kind of eyeball emoji, and then all of Vancouver will want his head. Maybe he won't do that. Maybe he's got other stuff to do. But like, I'll tell you
fan
what,
bases don't want Dom's head. Just Toronto.
Yeah,
and
that's fine.
that might be it.
I mean, that might be it. And even then, I'm sure there are people in Toronto who might not like the guy.
You know what? This is not a wise move by us in the podcast to take fun little runs at Dom and Shayna, who are infinitely.
They're both good people. They're
they're way smarter than us.
They're way smarter than us.
Exactly.
It's fine. It's fine. Shayna is great. Like, my one question was about Carter Hagee against Kyle Connor, and Kyle's off to a good start. I'm not saying like I won the war and all this. Like, Carter Hagee could have a good year. I'm just saying like Kyle Connor's off to a really good start, and people should point that out.
Yeah. Okay. I do want to talk some World Cup of hockey with you because that was one of the topics that was kind of broached overseas.
Yeah.
Before we do that, though, I think that you got your read all set here because I'm jet lagged, and I don't think the people at Chime would appreciate a jet lagged guy.
No, they would much rather the dude who's just coming out of being sick to do this ad read.
Yeah.
But anyway, for those who have no idea what we're talking about, Chime, the Athletic Hockey Show, this episode at least, is sponsored by Chime. No matter what you're buying this season, when you use the Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card, you can build your credit scores with on-time payments for everyday purchases. Plus, there's no annual fee, interest, or credit card check to get started. You could just get yourself going. What seasonal everyday purchases do you put on a credit card, Ian? I'm sure you must put some extravagant stuff on yours.
Oh my God. Even just going through Iceland, I wanted to buy some souvenirs. That'd have been damaging to the card.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, you big spender Ian over here.
That's right.
New nickname alert. No annual fees, interest, or credit check card to apply. I mentioned that. Use it everywhere Visa credit cards are accepted, and you can build credit using your own money. Through a Chime checking account, you can get paid up to 2 days early. And with direct deposit, with a qualifying direct deposit, you can get access to your money sooner and a fee-free overdraft with SpotMe. You can have your overdraft up to $200 without fees with SpotMe when you set up a qualifying direct deposit. Just set up a qualifying direct deposit, sign up for SpotMe, and Chime will spot you up to your limit when you make a debit card purchase or CAF withdrawal that exceeds your balance. No monthly fees. You can go to about over 60,000 fee-free ATMs. You could even send and receive money through Chime, whether or not you are a member. Start building your credit. Open a Chime checking account with at least $200 qualifying direct deposit to get started. You can get started at chime.com/NHL show. That's chime.com/NHL show.
There we go. Good? Nicely done. Good job doing the fee free. Like that's a tongue twister. Fee free. World Cup of Hockey was on the docket. Gary Bettman had a press conference in Stockholm. NHLPA boss Marty Walsh was in Stockholm. So there's a good opportunity to have that conversation. Our colleague Josh Cloak, who covers the Maple Leafs. By the way, I did see Josh Cloak in Stockholm. Whereas Jonas Siegel was this international man of mystery who I never saw. I saw Cloak. And by the way, he gave me some pizza tips because that guy, all he does is make great pizza. And I'm jealous of him. So gave me that. And I encourage our listeners to check out Josh's piece from the weekend about the World Cup. What do players want to see in the World Cup? And in Josh's article, Julian, the thing that I agree with what Nate McKinnon said, which was, I want this to be best on best, and I want more countries, it's the better. So think of the World Championships, you get 8 countries involved. Yeah, some of them are going to lose out early, but that's how you grow the game. What I don't love is there's increasing chatter that, just based on some things going on and, politics, both international politics and real politics that matter, and the politics of hockey and the NHLPA and all that stuff, that we might be looking at a real scaled down version, maybe just 4 countries. People are saying maybe it's just going to be Canada and the US and Sweden and maybe Finland in some sort of tournament. And I hate the idea of a Team Europe. I do. I think that's not right. But I also see the flip side of, boy, but then, you get the Germans with Draisaitl, Seider, Stützle. How do you include them? I don't know. I don't know where I fall on this, but I like Nate McKinnon saying, give me best on best. End of story. That's where I come down on this.
I want best on best as soon as we can get it. I like the idea of whatever happens with the World Cup, where you make it every 2 years and it alternates with the Olympics. If you're in a situation where you can make the World Cup a more consistent thing and not something that we just wake up and immediately remember after 8 years, you are off to the right side with that. So I like the idea of every 2 years you're going back and forth with the World Cup and the Olympics, but you need more teams in the World Cup. That being said, I am not opposed to a Team Europe. I am not opposed to a Team North America in the World Cup. I think those are just unique ways of making the tournament different and accommodating younger players, like what they had with Team North America in that 2016 tournament, and having Team Europe where you're accounting for all those other guys who would play for a country that might not be represented. I don't know how I feel about Russia not being involved. Obviously, there's the political side to that it's way bigger than me to discuss. But essentially, if you want best on best, you need them there, especially now where you're just thinking about what a Russian roster would look like. They have an embarrassment of riches in goal. Like, you could have a Vezina winner.
Can we borrow a goalie in Canada? We don't have.
I was with my ball hockey teammates last night, and we were all sitting around trying to figure out who would start in net for Team Canada at a best on best tournament.
And what'd you guys come up with?
So Carter Hart came up.
Yeah.
I threw out the name Aiden Hill. Is Logan Thompson on that list? Like,
it's unbelievable because
is Jordan Binnington someone you still throw out there as a goalie on this team? You might have to.
Think about it. For like in the early 2000s when the Olympic cycles first started, that was Canada's area of strength, right? You had Marty Brodeur and Patrick Waugh, Eddie Belfour, Curtis Joseph, whatever, Roberto Luongo into that. Now you look at it, Canada has the weakest goaltending of any of the major countries. It feels like by far. Think of the American goaltending.
Does John Gibson even make the team? That's a good question because Jake Ottinger probably starts. Connor Hellebuck's a backup.
Thatcher Demko,
isn't Jeremy Swayman American?
Swayman, Demko, can we just borrow one guy?
I mean, geez, I don't know. You just have to wait on these guys, right? Like, people would throw. Like, I heard someone throw up that it's Devin Levi. Like, he's not ready yet. He's not ready for that level of competition.
21. Yeah, Matt Fairburn, by the way, has an interesting piece today on did the Sabres rush Devin Levi?
Yeah, like I just the expectations with him as a goalie. He showed some stuff last year that made you think, hey, you know what? Like, maybe you can give him some time. But the thing with goalies is, like, they need all the time they can get before they can become they can get to the level that they're supposed to be at. Probably not an ideal comparison to make, but like,
no,
Carey Price entered the league in his early 20s, and he was you could tell the talent was there, but he needed so much time in order for himself to get to that point. And at least in this case, there was the Price Halak years. Cristobal Ure was another goalie that he had with him, but there were other goalies he could work with where, fine, you're putting him in, but he needed that time to develop. And so a guy like Devin Levi at 21 years old, yeah, absolutely, he needs seasoning, and it's not a problem for him to get that. If you have another goalie who could work as a stopgap for him to develop and get better, you're on the right track with that one. You don't need to rush Devin Levi, and you certainly don't need to give up on him at this point.
So all I can think of is, if you're an American hockey fan, this is your chance. You want to talk about icing your best team maybe ever, or certainly one that could certainly push Canada. In goal, the Americans clearly have the edge. right? Like
Yeah, they
clearly.
do.
And then now up front, think of Austin Matthews, think of Jack Hughes, think of Hughes on defense, like the Kachuk brothers, like start going down the list. This would be so competitive, so great, and then now fold in all the other places and the Swedens and the what, like we got to get this done here. It's an absolute travesty
Yeah.
that we've gone now close to 8 years without a best on best tournament in hockey. And best on best is what people crave in sports.
It's what
They
people
crave it.
get into. Like like you see it in soccer, baseball. Remember the World Baseball Classic earlier this year? You remember
Yes.
how it ended? You remember seeing like Shohei Ohtani versus like Mike Trout? Like that's something that like baseball should like put up in their in
Posterize it.
Cooperstown in the open,
Yeah.
like posterize it everywhere. There's something about best on best international tournaments that even if you're just the most casual fan of a sport, you get roped in. And this game has never been more skilled, never been more talented. The goal scoring is up, and we have no best on best to show for it. It's
Yeah.
embarrassing.
It is. It's really tough. Joel has written in and says go with 3 Euro teams. Eastern Euro teams with Russia, team Western Euro with the Swiss Germans, and then you have a team of the Nordic countries. But boy, like you got to remember when you say, okay, like let's group the Nordic countries together. As much as the Americans and the Canadians have a great history and a rivalry and they love battling, that's the Swedes and the Finns. Like they don't want to play together, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
I
don't know
think,
how that would
but I
work.
love that. Like these are the ideas that I like listeners and fans. I love outside the box ideas like that one, Joel. Like I love it. I love the ideas, but I think the simplest idea is the one that's existed for decades.
Yeah, just put the
Not
teams
best.
in, right? Absolutely. Was it
What
on
like
this show where we discussed an idea where if you had Canada and the USA play against each other, you roped in the women's teams as
yes, I, I
well?
I floated that idea multiple times where you
Yeah,
do
like
game
that was
one
a
is
really good idea.
Canada USA men's, game two is Canada USA women, and back and forth. Like
And like
be
both basically
amazing.
like the both nations are competing for like first one to 4 wins or something. Like that would be something fascinating to watch. I don't know. I at the one reason why I'm not so up in arms about this format that's being pushed out there, this doesn't seem like something that is just going to like stick as like a permanent World Cup idea. This just seems like something that we're trying to just have on the up and running so that way we have some kind of best on best, and then when it comes time for us to get to the Olympics and when it comes time for us to get to the World Cup again, maybe things will be a lot more normalized in terms of bringing in more countries. I'm sure they want that, but you're right. We've gone 8 years without proper best on best international competition, and this is just like an idea for us to get going. Like
And
I I can understand that thinking.
it's mind-boggling to me that Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid have never teamed up for Team Canada.
And we're losing daylight on that.
We're losing daylight. And you know what else is crazy too? Just like Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux teamed up for arguably the most iconic goal in Canadian hockey history. Now it depends on your age, right? Like
Yeah.
I wasn't alive. You and I weren't alive for Henderson. You weren't alive for Lemieux. Your goal would be Crosby. Mine would be Lemieux's. Other people's would be Henderson. Whatever. But you realize that's the only time Gretzky and Lemieux played together in a best on best for Canada. And think
I mean
about this.
that makes sense.
But at the time, Wayne Gretzky was 26. Mario Lemieux was 21. You would have figured this is a stepping stone to these guys are going to play together for 4 or 5, best on best in that cycle. And just injuries and circumstances and retirements, their paths never crossed again. So all I'm saying is you have to really appreciate those moments when you get best on best. And who knows what would have happened if we had McDavid and Crosby. And I don't want American fans to think, I wish we had Hughes and Matthews. I like you shouldn't have to wonder. You should be able to see it and feel it. And it's mind-boggling to me that we haven't gotten
And
there.
and I think for especially for American fans and those who might be casual, to get the opportunity to see a tournament where you can see Hughes and Matthews, Matthew and Brady Tkachuk doing their thing. I know he's not off to a good start this year, but like Johnny Gaudreau is probably a fixture on those teams as well.
Oh yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
trying to think of the defense core on that team.
Well, Quinn Hughes,
obviously. I mean, that's another name you're thinking of. Like
yeah.
for a market that the National Hockey League is trying to tap in and try to get as much eyeballs on their sport as possible. I think the idea that Team USA possibly being at the best it's ever been as a hockey playing nation, like that's a golden opportunity for more and more people to look at those guys, have them be more household names. Jason Robertson's another name that's definitely going to be on that team. Like, I don't know. There's such an opportunity there. And whether it's through
Fox
this Four
American,
Nations idea. Yes, Adam Fox would be there. So Quinn Hughes, Adam Fox.
Adam
Fox is American.
My God, this is the jet lag. Don't worry. McAvoy is American.
By the way, when I was saying about the defense core,
when I
say about the defense core, I wasn't like, oh, I'm throwing shade on it. Like I'm trying to remember names offhand, but like that's like Charlie McAvoy on that team with Quinn Hughes and Adam Fox. Like that's a solid top three. That's an incredible top three.
Yeah.
I'm probably missing names too. Who knows?
If I'm an American fan, I'm all over. Like, get this in because I think if I'm an American, I'm thinking my team has as good a chance to win that tournament as anybody.
If I'm ESPN, or TNT, I'm like salivating at the idea of like showing these guys on TV and making them the focus throughout this tournament.
Yeah.
And hyping up those stories and getting people to know these guys in the name of like glory and international pride. Like even me just saying that, there's like a part of me in my head that's like USA. Like there's money there, there's opportunity there, growth. Fix it.
All of it. It's all there. Okay, listen, we have a full slate of shows. Like, there's some other stuff I want to tackle. We can push this to Tuesday.
Yeah, we could.
Because I want to talk about on Tuesday's show, why are there no games scheduled in the NHL on Tuesday night? I understand why there's no games scheduled on Thursday because it's American Thanksgiving, but I wonder if there's an opportunity to showcase Canadian teams on Thanksgiving. So we'll push that to Tuesday's pod.
Yeah.
Where Mike Russo, I don't know if they did this in Stockholm because we were staying at the same hotel, but Mike Russo, Chris Johnston are going to have a conversation. Yeah, they did. They did it at our hotel without me. Mike Johnson was at the game. Mike Russo, Chris Johnston will be by on the Athletic Hockey Show on Tuesday, and then I believe Russo will hopefully pop by for a little bit, maybe. I don't know. We'll see because he's going to have jet lag to deal with too. But that'll be a fun conversation with CJ and Russo, just kind of bouncing around the NHL, some hot spots, things of that nature. So,
can you please ask Mike Russo? Can you please ask Mike tomorrow if he would have joined you at the ABBA Museum? I'm confused. Did you ask him, or did you just?
No, I was afraid. I was afraid of being shit.
Then we need to ask.
He was like me. I don't think he had a ton of time. Like none of us had a ton of time there, except for Jonas Siegel, who didn't even come.
So okay, so like I get that you've showed concern about the fact that we mentioned Dom and Shayna the way that we have, and I think that's more in a joking tone. And again, no real shade to those two. I'm starting to get concerned about how you keep calling out Jonas, aka Beanie Siegel. Like I'm getting a little concerned.
I don't know.
I saw him when I was in Toronto last week.
I only saw him in Instagram pictures with other reporters. I'm like, where are you? I saw Sean McKenzie a bunch of times.
Hey, how's Sean doing? No relation.
Oh, great. Sean McKenzie. I sat next to him for one of the games. Ottawa, Detroit, I think.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I got to show him the ropes. I helped break him into the TV industry. God, when was this? 10 years ago. Yeah. You can ask him about it. I helped shepherd a young Sean McKenzie.
Damn. I think I saw him during my road trip really quickly, but I didn't get a chance to say hi to him, man. That's no, I did. I did get to, because we were watching him and Beanie Siegel. We were watching overtime of Flames Leafs from the media room downstairs. So I did get to say hi to my cousin / not cousin.
Yeah, that's right. You guys share the last name. So anyway, well, we have a ton to get to the rest of the weekend. This will be fun tomorrow with Mike Russo, Chris Johnson will be back at it. And as you mentioned, Julian, you did a great job in teasing the Black Friday sale that we have going on right now, right? $1 a month for 12 months. Pretty good deal. This is the time.
Really great deal.
Get in. All you got to do is visit theathletic.com/hockey show. And you can take advantage of that. $1 a month for 12 months as we want you to take advantage of that. All right. Before I wrap this up, I do want to ask one question to you, Julian McKenzie. Okay. And for the people that are listening to this audio version, I'm going to paint a picture for you.
Okay.
Julian McKenzie is doing this podcast with me. And if you're watching the video version, you don't need an explanation, but he's wearing an NHL themed hat, like an NHL hat, a hat with the NHL logo on it. There, I finally got to what I wanted to say. And it very much reminds me, you're giving me Rob Lowe vibes. Remember when Rob Lowe showed up to that NFL? He showed up to San Francisco. I think it was a playoff game with the 49ers. And he's wearing an NFL hat where like the memes were flying. So before we cut this episode off, give us the backstory of Julian McKenzie's NHL league hat.
Last fall, I saw this. Actually, there was a photographer who would work at Flames games. I have forgotten their name, unfortunately. They would wear this hat. And I just thought it was a really cool hat. And myself and another good colleague of mine who actually writes for the league, Aaron Vickers, we were both very enamored with this hat.
Rob Lowe. That's you. We need a split screen
put the photo up of Rob Lowe with the hat.
Who wore it better?
We, I mean, I'll go to the side here. We could do a proper side by side.
I'll go to this side.
But yeah, we were both into this hat, and actually, there's an added level to this. So I found that I was looking for this hat. I think it's like one of those like 47 hats, and for whatever reason, like I just couldn't find it online. It took me a long time to find it. I found this random store in Edmonton that had it, and I ordered it. I ordered two. And I remember going to the game, this one game around Christmas, and like I'm wearing this hat, and I sit next to my friend Aaron, and he's like, "Wow, like you bought yourself this hat, and you didn't even think to get me one." Like he's trying to throw me shade about how like I got this hat, and we both said we wanted the hat and all that, and he's like, "Oh well, I see how it is." And literally, I go in my backpack and I'm like, I knew you would do this. Here you go. And I bought him the hat. He was so floored after that had happened. So yeah, there's a very fun story with this hat. I love this hat. It's a great hat. You can tell, for those who do not see it, it's like the old NHL style logo when it was black and orange before they ended up just going black and silver. I like it. It very much screams, I hope these two teams have fun. Energy.
I love it. The Rob Lowe. That's the meme that I was going for. All right.
Not being offensive to anyone with my
exactly.
NHL-ness.
Go everybody. Okay. So that puts a wrap on it for the Monday edition of the pod. Like we said, the two of us will be back at it on Tuesday with CJ and Russo. Enjoy the games on Monday. We'll hit you up again on Tuesday.
Peace.